Hello, everybody. Hello, and this is well, a podcast. I guess is it called? It's called a podcast. No, it's a
Webinar. I
video
would call it
cast.
a webinar.
A
I would call
webinar.
it a webinar.
Yeah, I was struggling for the word there. A webinar on key 7 from Try This. But first of all, before we go to key 7, which is watch a drawing, and I'll be honest about this. I'm really quite nervous about the drawing. I've been practicing all day, and it's just I'm just so far out of my comfort zone. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But at this point, just before we do have a look at watch a drawing, we're going to just briefly think about the key that we looked at last time, which was step into a moment. Did either of you get the chance to have a go with step into a moment, or to think of something that you might have done previously that was a similar or the same key?
I've, I've got a little bit I could tell you about if that's
Great. Yeah, please
yeah.
go.
So I've been invited in the work I'm doing in Doncaster, UK at the moment to do something around volcanoes and earthquakes. So I've found Earth Split Island. And as part of it, working with a group of teachers before working with some of their children, which I'm doing in 2 days' time. I tried it out with the group of teachers and sort of exposed me planning to them and kept my fingers crossed like you would.
Yeah.
And as part of that, thank you for the last discussion that we had. I placed some of the teachers with advanced knowledge enrolled to be the people who wanted to be able to live back on Earth Split Island after the 3 generations where nobody had been allowed to be there, and placed the rest of us in expert roles as volcanologists and, you know, a range of scientists and so on, and placed the advanced briefed teachers on the beach on the island, having built the island, and gave them a rug and gave them a conch. And in the same way that you worked when we were talking about the last key, they slowly sat there and held the rug to their breast and took the conch out and listened to it. And so I asked similar questions to the ones that you asked. You know, what's this all about? What do you see here? So thank you so much for that, because that led into it. And if you've got time on Wednesday of this week, please think of me in the morning when I'm trying it out with year 4, having worked with their teacher in another context before. I've rewritten it, needless to say, since the first experience. But I was really drawing on what we discussed last time. So many thanks.
Brilliant, brilliant. And the island then, is it threatened by a volcano then? Is that the tension?
Earth split. It was split 3 generations ago, but the subplot, if you like, is that the experts have been asked to consider whether to encourage people to go back or whether to keep them away, and they are being approached by the government to keep them away, because, you know, the military will want this, and there'll be a useful base for making sure that radar will be sweeping the world. Yeah. I'm just going to close my window because I look as if I've gone into a fog, don't I?
You look like angelic, John. It looks like
I am.
only
What
light has been shone upon you.
John's talking about a fictional island there, but it sounds very much, you know, aspects of that, you know, the way islands are over for territory and military occupation. It's all very familiar to those of us in the Pacific.
Yes, of course. And it'll be the sort of thing that will grip year 4, no problem.
I hope so. Yeah. So that's Wednesday.
Great. Well, I'll be thinking about you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ulysses, have you got anything to share about key 6?
No, not at this moment.
No. Okay. Well, I've got something I did this week that I might you might like to hear about. I was working in a class with year twos, and it's a school I've been working at for some time, and Bradshaw, actually, up in Halifax, and the head teacher had asked me to work with their TAs, their classroom support helpers, and teacher support, and about being in role, because they hadn't really had the experience of that, and they were a little bit nervous about it. So I spent about half a day working with them, as you had, John, as away from the children, and talking to them about what role was about, and not to be afraid of it, and the teacher's job is to protect you into this, and all the usual sort of stuff. Anyway, and the context that we explored or started from stepping a moment into a moment was gladiators. So there were two TAs in the classroom working together, supporting each other, and they sat on these chairs, and the children didn't know, they were studying Rome, but they didn't know immediately what the teachers, the teaching classroom support were representing, and the two of them were just sort of like this, looking nervous and all the rest of it. So you got all that kind of stuff that they did, and then there were a couple of lines that they read out that I'd prepared in advance, and one of them was, "How has it come to this?" And then the other one said, "Will I ever see my family again?" And then the last line was, "These games are evil." And it was like the kids had gone all around the houses, but when they heard that these games are evil, it was like, "Oh, they're gladiators! They're gladiators! This is gladiators!" And the TAs enjoyed it so much and was so impressed, because they weren't doing very much. The key itself, it's using drama and in a very significant way. But as I said to the TAs, it's the children that are doing all the work. The role isn't meant to be doing the work. The role is just giving you an insight, a moment, and then it's up to the teacher to be talking to the students and getting them to be thinking about what's going on. So yeah, so I thought I'd share that, because it was both very enjoyable, and also, as I say, it was a way of supporting the TAs, because they knew exactly what they were going to be doing. Didn't have to do any sort of hot seating or improvisation, which would have been much too difficult for them. Okay, so let's talk then about Key 7, which is called Watch a Drawing. And just move on. This is the outline. So it says here, UK example from the book. Yeah, I've missold it there. I'm not doing the example from the book. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is because the example in the book is really self-explanatory, but also because in doing this online like this, the example that I'm going to give you is going to work better, I believe. And so it'll be another example of it. Plus, it's something I've done recently, so I can talk about it, from a personal experience of something I've done quite recently. I told the people this morning very early when we were talking to folk in New Zealand that it was going to be to do with a fairy tale. It's not a fairy tale. I've completely missold that again. So anyway, in a moment I'll do it and you'll see what it is. So we just talked about that, and now we're going to look at this. Okay, so I'm going to switch screen now to do the drawing. Now, let's see if I've got this right. Can you see that white piece of paper with the pens down the side? Brilliant. So imagine you're in a classroom. When I did this with some infants, but it would work just as well with juniors, with older children. But imagine a piece of paper on the floor or possibly on a board, and the children all gathered round, and I've got a pen in my hand. And I'm kind of looking at the pen as if sort of an idea is coming to me. And then I'm going to start drawing. So the first line I'm going to draw is this one. And it hasn't worked. That's brilliant. Let's have another go.
I don't think you picked up a pen, that's all.
No, I have. It's just it didn't work. Anyway, here it goes. There we go. Now it's. There we go. That's the first line. So as I'm drawing, I'm just going to invite you to, I don't know, speak out loud. So any kind of thoughts, or anything that sort of comes to mind. So
The
just
thing that
stop there
comes to mind for me is like a boat. I don't know why, or
Yeah.
a vessel. Did you see that too, Ulysses?
Yeah, I think the same, like a boat or something.
And I was also thinking how amazing that one line could evoke so much, because it's how, like, your brain sort of watches it and goes, oh no, hang on, it's gone somewhere else now.
Brain always thinking in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those two extra lines there, then, does that take you off in any other direction?
I'm just still watching.
So
I might
if this
think-
was
I'm not thinking boat
Go on.
anymore, but I haven't gone anywhere
okay.
else. What about you?
Ulysses?
I'm thinking about teeth, front teeth.
Front teeth. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
like cartoon teeth. That's brilliant. Okay, all right. I'm going to try and get this next line right. Let's see if I can get this right. Something like this. It's kind of up here like that. Just stop there. Just give you a little bit of that.
Oh, sorry, I'm talking a lot, but it's because my brain's sparking. It's like the sled on the bottom of a.
Oh.
It's suddenly gone to, looks like a ski on the bottom of a vest of a, I don't know, like it could be something, dogs pulling that across the snow, whatever that is.
I'm just
Oh,
going to go down there, and then we're going to go up here a little bit. And then across there like that. And then down there like that.
you do this so differently from me, Tim.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just conscious of how well drawn yours is, and just how, like, I tell you honestly, all day I've been going, oh, that's rubbish. I can't do that. Not live.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
But that's so interesting, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
What that signing of that insecurity does, it makes us want to support you. It's like, you can do it, teacher. You can do it.
Yeah. I know. When I do it with children, I've got absolutely no problem at all. I never worry about it, because they are like that, aren't they, children? They don't laugh at you. They always kind of go, oh, it's all right, you've done a really good job, and yeah, no, that's fine.
Oh, is this a helicopter?
Coming along here, kind of heading up this way.
The way that you're narrating your process, it really makes us in the act of drawing with you, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's a helicopter.
Yeah. Oh no! Look, that's no! Don't do that. I'm going to undo that. Okay. I don't know why it does that. I'm going to try and again. There we go.
Particular drawing tool, isn't it?
And then we're going to get to there, and then we're going to yes. Okay. All right. That's not as good as the first time, but anyway, that's close. And then we're going to come up here, and I think you'll know what it is now. So there's a bit on the top. A bit like this. A bit like there. And then the whole thing's going to start to become apparent at this point.
Nice.
So yes, so everybody knows what this is now. Yeah.
So shall we do what we did this morning with the other group and pause at this point and talk about what that was like for us?
Yeah,
watching?
go ahead. I'm gonna carry on while you're doing
Yeah,
that,
you carry
because
on. So
this
what
yeah,
what
I'll
did
stop.
that feel
I'll
like
stop in a
as
minute.
you watched it? Like what happened inside you? It's not the question you'd ask children in a way, but we're trying to think about how this works. And so what was your experience of what, because I had an experience, but mine is as someone who is, you know, knows what Tim's doing. So I'm interested in what your experience was.
Well, it captured my attention. I think it has to do a lot with including the participant into the exercise, asking, what do you think about this line, and that sort of thing, because then you are joining into the activity and trying to guess in advance what's the sense of this thing that is being done. And so I was very attentive to what was happening on the board.
Yeah. Something about that visual language, isn't there? And
Yeah.
you said before your brain is always jumping ahead to guess. You felt your brain was jumping ahead to guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the brain is programmed to do. So
yeah,
I'm still missing my teeth smiling, but well.
Yeah, right. So you had to let go of that story.
Yeah.
So,
and
it's very good, Tim. I like
the,
the picture a lot.
it's not too bad, is it? It's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's quite hard actually to draw. Well,
But as
it's quite hard to draw
for
on
that to
computer.
appear in front of children, that's exactly right. You know, it's quite a childlike picture. And yeah, I'm interested in what you experienced, John.
I enjoyed watching, and I was praying for you, Tim, really, that it would work all right. Like you were saying earlier on, I was on your side, but I couldn't see the helicopter, and I'm going, oh, is there a helicopter there? I can't see. And then I felt a bit silly because I couldn't see the helicopter. And then there was a moment when the helicopter became apparent, and I was able to plug into it at that point. I loved the teeth. I was
You like
waiting.
the teeth.
I was waiting for them teeth. I hadn't seen the teeth until you mentioned it, and then I went, "Oh, nice. I really can see those."
Yeah.
That came up in our group this morning too, or earlier, in that we had quite a large group, or a much larger group, and people said that one of their experiences was feeling their head jump around as different people said the different things they could see in it. And it was quite an intricate drawing, and it really changed shape a number of times. I mean, this is an intricate drawing too, but and yeah, people enjoyed the sense of, oh, people are seeing something totally different from what I'm seeing. Like you couldn't see the helicopter, and they couldn't see the whatever it was. So yeah, that's quite interesting. And I noticed, Tim, that you didn't say, what do you think this is? What do you think this is? You just went, I'm going along here, and then I'm going around here. But you definitely, and this is the difference between you and me, you signed to us about the process of drawing and how that was for you. I mean, you did that from the opening of our session today. You signed so that the experience became sharing in your, collaborating in your anxiety to produce a picture, which is a really interesting power, use of power. It kind of aligns us with you in the, no, it's great, you can see it, which is quite different, I think, from the power relationship that I set up. So it'd be quite interesting for you two to go and watch the other video and see the way that exactly the same steps can change with the signing that you do. I don't know if you agree with that, Tim.
Yeah, I think it's there's a number of different ways of doing it, of course, and yeah, that was the way that I chose to do it.
Yeah, it was very authentic. It felt really authentic,
right,
like we were in relationship
right.
with you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, as I told you before, I was feeling quite a lot of stress, so that was kind of verbalized as I was doing it, and it was authentic. But the other thing, I think there's a kind of magic that's created when you draw something in front of children. I mean, I think it works with adults as well, but that something materializing, bit by bit out of the paper, and the imagination, and I've used this, I've hundreds and hundreds of times, different pictures, different images, different contexts and scenarios, and it's one of my favorite hooks. I think it's so inclusive. I was working in a classroom in South Wales a couple of weeks ago with some nursery children, very, very young. I mean, they'd only been in a school a number of weeks, and they were still at that kind of nursery stage where they haven't quite realised that the carpet is a place where you come and sit together. Sometimes they come over and sit there individually, but together is still a kind of developing concept. So it's quite like a herding cats type environment, and I had this piece of paper and I laid it down, and I said, and I had a support of the adults in the room, but I said to the children, "Do you just come over and have a look at this?" And one or two of them kind of wandered over, sort of, okay, what are you up to? And I picked up this pen and I started drawing. And as I was drawing, the others kind of made their way over as well, and they sort of, they're sort of crowding round and kind of go, "What is it? What is it?" And I was going, "Well, I don't know. What do you think it is?" And they were sort of, "Wow," and they're sort of coming out with ideas and things. And then I didn't draw it particularly well, but it was a leaf and it had been bitten. So there was a bit bitten out of it, and then there were holes in it. And they were going, "What is it? What is it?" And I said, "Well, it's a leaf, and these are holes, and this is a bite. What do you suppose has been eating the leaf?" And they were like, "Oh," and then we were off. You see, then it was, turned out to be caterpillars, and we spent the next 20 minutes drawing caterpillars and catching caterpillars and putting them in the little things, and then taking them over and put them in another part of the wood. I mean, all that, but it just came from this little drawing, and it's fantastic the way it works. So I'm going to add something else. If I can get it to work. I'm going to choose a red. I think I'll put it here. What do you make of that? Oops.
It's an emergency helicopter.
An emergency one, because of the Red Cross, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So what kinds of things? You've got an emergency helicopter, flying over. What might it? Where might it be going? What might be the emergency?
Well, it can be transporting a person which has had a severe accident and needs immediate attention in somewhere far off. Perhaps also a person that has suffered an accident and they are going to rescue that person, or also when they are harvesting organs and they have to lead them to the destinator of it, they also use that.
Yeah, yeah. So it could be going somewhere in a hurry.
Yeah.
Or it could be coming back from somewhere in a hurry. And it could be, I mean, that box that's there, or whatever that is, that thing with the dots on, that might be containing some organs. Did you say some a heart transplant, rushing a heart to a hospital and somebody urgently needs it or something like that.
It's definitely
John?
to do with life or
Sorry,
death.
John.
Sorry, I was just thinking
No, jump in.
everything
Yeah.
Ulysses was talking about. I was nearly going to say humans, but it isn't always humans. But it's something. Helicopters like that are to do with sustaining life, aren't they? Like the tension is to do with, yeah, the emergency-ness is to do with the fact that something could be in danger of their life. I was just thinking about what that Red Cross means. That's very interesting. It nearly always means humans. But then when I see that box, I think that looks like air holes, and that would be some kind of animal.
Yeah. John, any
my head rushes towards war zone. We're so exposed to that, and so that was my immediate thought, was relief, saving, healing, hovering, unable to get there, still trying, still can't get there, haven't got permission to land, negotiating permission to land, never getting it, hatred.
Yeah, because helicopters are different from planes, aren't they, John? Like helicopters are often about getting to hard to access areas, or like you say, not being able to land, but you hover so that you can drop things down.
So what kind of noise do helicopters make when they're hovering? Is there a particular noise to it? How would you describe that?
It's a sort of swoosh. I think we're on the police helicopter fly path here. So occasionally, if I'm lucky enough to be sitting in the garden for a moment, the police helicopter makes that particular, quite aggressive noise. Coming across. And
yeah, I associate it with surveillance. That sound.
Yes.
I lived in Northern Ireland for a while in the Troubles, and it was lots of hovering helicopters watching.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a different kind of helicopter. That was a kind of a surveillance-y helicopter.
Are they kind of, is the sound kind of less threatening, more friendly? I like the sound of helicopters when they're quite a way away. They're kind of a swishing sort of sound and that. But when they get closer and they start coming down, they're kind of, that intensity grows, isn't it? And as you say, that kind of loud kind of rotary sound.
And the whole business of dust floating in the air and the arrival of the helicopter, which looks exciting, and then everybody kind of has to do.
That's right. Everybody kind of
like a giant alien insect coming in, isn't it?
Yes, quite threatening. Quite threatening. We want to be saved, but at the same time, we have to go through the dust and get to the place that's safe for them to land. Oh, here we go.
Yeah. Well, there's another thing here that I'm just about to add. That might change things a bit.
I love how you can zoom in and out with this.
I know. I didn't even know.
You can make it take off or land or animate it.
Yeah, let's try that. Let's try that. Let's just get this bit done first.
You're such a good teacher. Say yes to all the crazy ideas from the kids.
There's something to do with pinching. There we go. Look. So we could take it away, like that, away, and then we could bring it in, fly it in close, like that. Okay. Right. So I'm gonna ask you to, if you've got a piece of paper and a pencil, something to draw with. Have you got something handy that you can just do a quick sketch on? What I'm going to ask you to do is to imagine that you're sat in the helicopter looking, and you've just lowered the ladder, or this is it a rope ladder, do you think? Is it one of those? Yeah, it'd be something kind of flexible like that, wouldn't it? And you're looking down, and there's something at the bottom of the ladder. Could you draw what's at the bottom of the ladder? Just it won't take long. Just have a quick sketch of what you think is going on down at the bottom of the ladder. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to pick your picture up, and we'll see what there is at the bottom of the ladder. So you can imagine now the children are all scurried off to their tables, and they're all creating all these different scenarios, you see, and you're sort of obviously wandering around looking over their shoulder and thinking to yourself, well, one or two of these might make a story that we could develop together. How are you doing? You done? You ready, John? Yeah. Ulysses, yeah. You nearly ready? Nearly. Viv? So while we're sort of still sort of doing this, really, and pondering it, if we've got a red cross on the side of our helicopter, and we've just lowered a ladder down, and we're obviously going to find out in a moment or two what sort of things going on in this, what sorts of things might be going on in this story. But what are you imagining that we're wearing? If we're the people who are in the helicopter, what sort of clothing have we got on, do you think?
Well, you have to wear like a vest that makes you visible in a way,
Oh, high
and which
vis. Yeah,
indicates
yeah, yeah,
and which indicates what sort of personal are you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So has it got the name of our organisation written on the back or something, and
Yeah.
a kind of a badge or something that says what we are? So if we're calling ourselves the Red Cross, that's the sort of name that goes with the badge, I suppose, and might have the Red Cross on there. But we might be an international team. That might be quite exciting. Do you want us to be an international team? Should we be a team that sort of goes over the borders, like you were saying earlier, John? We might go into war zones and things like that. Should we be that kind of team? Yeah, okay, we'll be that kind of team. And so we're a team, Red Cross team. We're going to go across borders. We might go into dangerous areas and that sort of stuff. If we do go into dangerous areas, is there any sort of adaptations that we'd make to our helicopter? Like John was saying earlier about helicopters that kind of fly over urban areas, aren't there? But if we're going into a war area, then are there any adaptations that we're gonna, any sort of, I don't know, reinforcements or things that we might do to our helicopter?
I think that with a red cross on it, it's unlikely to have a gun poking out.
Yeah, no, we can't have a gun.
That you do see on some helicopters, attack helicopters. I don't think this is an attack helicopter, but I'm not sure. Can you put armored plating on the bottom of helicopters?
Literally no idea.
No, really.
What's the I hadn't even thought about it. It's the first time I've ever thought about it. But what's the problem with putting armor plating on the back of the helicopter then?
Power to weight ratio.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
I haven't got a clue either.
But no,
I like power to weight ratio. Like I like saying tectonic shifts when I was looking in that split island. Sorry,
but there must be a calculation, mustn't there? So I mean, it's not. I mean, we're adapting a helicopter. So if we're adapting a helicopter, if you start putting on great big thick, bulletproof plate on it and stuff, you're right. It's not going to take off, or if it does take off, it's not going to fly very far. It might be difficult to handle. So obviously we'd have to bear that in mind, wouldn't we? I'm going to put, even if we don't put sort of thick metal plate on the bottom, I'm still going to put bulletproof glass in. I don't think that's going to change the, but I'm not going to be flying around in a bubble with people shooting at us. I'm going to put bulletproof glass in there. So that's my choice anyway. Just before we find out what's at the bottom of the ladder, then what's this strange box with if we look at your story that you've drawn there, how does that fit into your story? What could that be?
Well, I'm leaning towards supplies, as Biff was saying. Yeah, supplies of some sort.
Like medical supplies, bandages, medicines, syringes, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Any other ideas?
I really like the air hole thing you were talking about earlier on, Viv, and I can see a little bear or something that needs taking somewhere safely inside the box so that it can breathe and maybe delivered back into the wild, or perhaps there's been some way before we see what is the bottom of the ladder that the bear has been able to be hiked up into the air, and it's already been had it's been anesthetized and it's snuggled in the box waiting for something next to happen to it. So it must be dangerous to have a live bear in a helicopter anyway.
Yeah, I should think so. Yeah, you'd want it asleep first, wouldn't you, before you put it in the take it up the ladder. Okay, right. So I'm going to ask you in a moment to hold up your pictures, but I'm going to ask you to do it in a particular way. So just to use the sort of storytelling voice. So it'll be something like, as I looked out the window and down the ladder, I saw, and then sort of put up the picture and describe what it is that you're seeing. So has anybody done anything? I'll give you an example. Has anyone done anything at sea? No? No. Okay. So here's an example of a sea. So I looked out of the window of the helicopter, and down below me was someone who was in the sea, floating in a ring that they're from a shipwreck. And I lowered down the ladder to pick them up. It'll be something like that. Nothing kind of more than that, really. It's just putting yourself in the helicopter and describing what you can see, and then just holding up the picture, and then we'll see what we do from there. Who'd like to go first?
Go on then.
Yeah, good man.
I looked out of the helicopter, and through the dust storm underneath it, and sort of kind of at the top of not a mountain, but a hill, a number of high-rise flats with flat roof, and with that's the ladder was stretching down, but as things got more and more dangerous, we had to take off, and so there is somebody hovering in the dust beneath the helicopter, and look, it's a long way down to those high-rise flats that they have just been rescued from. It's got nothing to do with the bear.
Okay. So just pause it there for a moment. So what questions come to mind? What questions would you like to ask John about that scenario? You could just think for a moment. You said they were high-rise, John. High-rise buildings.
Yes, many stories high.
And they're in a city.
Well, I don't know about that because the dust clouds, but I know they're perched on a sort of a hill.
Can I ask you to answer the question as somebody who does know? So imagine that you're telling the other person who knows a lot about what's going on in the story. So if we ask the question, is it in a city? You'll be able to say yes or no.
No, it's definitely not in the city. And around those high-rise flats, which have been built specifically outside the city for a number of reasons, there's woodland, rocks, and dust.
Is it like an industrial thing, park?
One of them has industry attached to it.
Where in the world are we? Where are we?
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Well, we're in Eastern Europe, and we're in a place where, if we're not careful, we will be accused of all sorts of things and detained whilst we're accomplishing this rescue mission.
So I was thinking you're rescuing people.
So are we wanted by? Is there a war going on? Is there a warring factions and
There's wars everywhere? There's wars everywhere. But we are trying to provide relief to it, and so that the person who's flying it is very, very brave, and has done it many times before, and probably their luck is running out. Who knows?
So here's a question for all of us, really. If we were these people, is there any circumstances in which we wouldn't rescue someone?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we, I mean, you put a red cross on the side of a helicopter. Does that mean that you rescue people even in extreme circumstances? Or are there times when you just have to say, it's too dangerous, we're not going in there? How do you feel?
The Red Cross will mean nothing in these circumstances. We will hope that it provides some protection for us, but history shows that it means nothing. But we feel it's really important to try to rescue people in times of desperate need, and will even disobey the order not to go.
Oh, well, you say you will. Is that, yes, your view? Is it that you would disobey an order? If an order came that said you're not going there, you would say, you would, well, under what circumstances? I mean, you're not going to last long if you disobey every order. So what
It's just that you just don't hear the order. That's all. There's a communication breakdown at the critical moments. You didn't hear it, and such was the danger that you were already in takeoff mode.
And you just continue, whatever,
oh, yeah.
Whatever the danger. This person that's hanging on the bottom of the ladder as we taking off, are they gripping hold as we've had to take off, and they're holding on, are they, for their dear life like that?
Their fingers are gripping furiously, and that's what I'm trying to do there.
Well, that's gonna slow us down, that's gonna destabilize us. So we're flying to get away, presumably, because our lives are under threat. Is that right?
We're hovering at the moment because the ladder is,
Yeah.
So it's even more dangerous because you're just like a stationary target.
Right. So can I ask Viv and Ulysses? I've got my own view on this actually, about this ignoring. You know, I mean, you say you're ignoring orders, but I mean, I don't know about that. Ulysses, are you prepared to ignore orders so that we can go into these dangerous areas and risk our life and save people, or are you having doubts about this? I mean, I'm not saying that John's reckless. I'm not saying that he's taken us into areas. I mean, are you flying this helicopter, John? Are you kind of just going, no, it's nothing. It's nothing. No, no, no. I'm just. You know, I mean, because the rest
No,
of us.
I wouldn't.
All right.
I wouldn't claim to be as technically clever as that.
No,
No, I'm a winch person, and
you're the winch person, are you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just tied up.
Right.
But I can see the expression on the face of the person who's hanging on the bottom for dear life.
Right.
I would say that. I'd say that when you're part of a team, you are either all the way in or all the way out.
Okay, Viv, where are you on this?
I feel like I'm listening to a story rather than in it, but I can put myself in it. What was the question? Would I disobey
Would you
orders?
ignore the orders? There's orders that are
I
telling.
probably would, yeah. Because I feel like it's important to be part of. If we're part of a team, then part of our responsibility is to those who make the decisions. So I probably wouldn't be joining you, John. If the order was not to go, then there's a reason.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but it was too late. You know, the order came through. We didn't hear it. We were already on board, so you were there.
Sure. But I was asked whether I would. The circumstances in which I would do that would be things that weren't to do with my job. It would be where it was a family member or a small child that I had already a relationship, or it would be something that wasn't to do with my professional identity to make me breach an order, I think.
Well, I think that when you're at that point, you know that those people at some level, or you're familiar with the case.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not even going.
Yeah, I think orders are important. Like, because we need this will be one of many missions, and we need to listen to those who are coordinating the missions. We can't just sort of, yeah. But as I was listening to you tell that story, John, I was also admiring someone who would be so ideals driven, and I was like, that's true heroism. That's a kind of person I want to follow. But my honest answer is, if I was part of a medical team that worked under an organization, I would want to trust the organizational decisions. So that I'm a little bit drawn both directions there, aren't I?
I think for me, I don't know. We've only got 5 minutes left now, so just kind of summing up now. But I think that this is a really good example, John, of what you've done is to create a scenario without being very deliberately, without locating it specifically. So I think, you know, I often think about drama as a way of helping young people to explore the kinds of even quite young children explore the kinds of things that they're seeing in the news and the kinds of, you know, things that are happening. And this, of course, is Matt the Expert, what we've done now. You know, we're looking at, we're a team and we're rescuing people. And, you know, there's an awful lot of really terrible things happening in the world. And, you know, very recently in Gaza, those there was an aid convoy, wasn't it? That was bombed, people were killed, and the people that ran that organization decided that it was too dangerous to send people into that region. That must have been such a difficult decision for them. That must have been so hard, because they did prioritize the lives of their aid workers ahead of the people that they were there to help. I mean, I know that they had this ship that was sailing to that region full of tons and tons of supplies, and they turned around because they made this decision to prioritize. So, I mean, we got into some quite, as well, this child said to me the other day in one of the class, have I gone a bit dark? We've gone a bit dark, but actually it is often these things are things that children are encountering when they watch the news, or they see things in the news and whatever, and it helps us to kind of maybe unpack some of those philosophical, moral dilemmas.
Yeah.
It's not, it can, we could play at flying a Red Cross and we could fly around and rescue people and, cats up trees and do all that sort of stuff. But actually, I think it would be a missed opportunity, because I think there are lots of much deeper things that we can get into. Anyway, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Bring it back. Have I done that? Have I stopped sharing it?
Yeah.
So just 1 minute on reflections, really. Viv, I'm quite interested, because you kind of, I think it didn't catch you. Is that right? You can be.
No, that's not right. It did capture me, but because we'd spent quite a lot of time committing to our own images, and Ulysses and I have shared our images on the thing. Right. Mine was a cultural thing. If you're a company that goes across borders and fights in war zones, then my context wasn't working, because it was very much a New Zealand domestic context, and suddenly the helicopter was an international thing. Doesn't work if you're a tiny island hundreds of hours, tens of hours away from another country. So I had to kind of shelve my story and go with your story. That was all. So I was kind of, it was interesting to me, because mine was a hunting accident and it was domestic, and it was, so I kind of, that was all. Yeah, I don't know if you felt the same way, you see. So, like, I was fascinated with John's story, but being invited to be in that team was another step, because I'd already made my own world at the bottom of my ladder. So, yeah. So your helicopter couldn't be my helicopter, because my helicopter wasn't a war zone going helicopter. And it's not that I was saying no to your answers. It's just, to do that, I had to sit and listen to the story for a bit. That was all. Definitely not pushing it away. I was just, I'd built belief in another world slightly. I don't know if you had, Ulysses.
Well, for me, I was thinking about some sort of rescue of people in distress. So it was easier for me to go into John's story in a way. And although, I mean, I have never had anything near to resemble a war, I could think about perhaps when there is a bad weather and they tell you that you can't go in because risks would be at a major extent. But I think that when you are already in the zone and you are just one step near the rescue, well, you can commit to that. And as Jen was saying,
you
didn't hear. So it was easier for me because of that sort of a scenario I was in, and it is very interesting how many issues can come up of this way of diving into story and generating, and yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to experience from the other side. So as I said to Viv this morning, I've experienced it hundreds of times from the teacher's side, but this morning experiencing it from the participant side, it was a really very different experience. And I wanted to do something different from the example that Viv gave this morning, and actually different from what was in the book, just to explore really how this key can start in a particular way with the teacher drawing, and then can be used in different ways. So the way that Viv used it this morning, which is often the way that I've used it, is that the context comes from the drawing and is something that's already a given in terms of my planning.
Yeah.
And that's a sequence, a part of a sequence. The way that I've done it in the second session is that my part of my planning ended when I drew the ladder. That was the end of my planning. I didn't have anything after that, other than to talk to you about the different possibilities, and then to develop one of those possibilities in the time that we had. Now, the experience that you have is of I mean, if you're in a class with 25 children, that just maybe one or two things that we will develop together, and I think that's part of being a part of a community, is that you can't do every single example, and you have to kind of, as part of the community, you have to kind of go, okay, I've come up with my idea, but I'm going to explore this idea.
Absolutely.
And let go of my idea for a bit, and then come back to it. You know, and I often say to children, we're all, well, this team of people who fly in helicopters around, you know, they're going to be Viv's, they're going to be flying Viv's missions, they're going to be flying Ulysses' missions as well as John's missions. You know, we'll be doing all kinds of things. So, you know, don't worry about that. But that's actually quite a different experience, isn't it?
Very different. And it gets you there. Like when you asked me, because you could see I was sort of hanging back, but when you asked me for a philosophical response to the situation, that was it. I was there.
Right.
I do think it's really different to use the key as a generative thing, where you go, what might be down the bottom of the ladder? And that presents us with 29, 30, if you've got a classroom of kids, things at the bottom of the ladder. And we're committed to those. So that's sitting there, and that's exciting. And it's a good skill to go, okay, put that down, pick this one up for a bit. But it is interesting that both Ulysses and I shared our picture. And if I'm thinking as a kid, I want to go write my story. I want to hear about John's one as well. I also want to. So you've used it in a really generative way, which is a different, equal, and fantastic use of it to the one where you're pulling everyone into a shared world with givens. The givens are still important, because it does matter if we're a team if we're a team of people that does this stuff all around the world. That sets up, you know, that makes sense of something, rather than it being, oh well, mine can't be that one, and you know, the shuffling around that you do in your head to kind of make it all add up. And there's more of that. There's more of that, having to go, oh, okay, so with it, okay, I can make it. Yeah, okay, right, get it. There's more of that when it's used generatively. But yeah, no, totally works.
There's more negotiation involved, isn't there? There's more. You know, if it's part of a story that's kind of emerging in front of them, then you can plan ahead, and then the things come out of that. But if you're opening up multiple narratives, then you have to do more negotiation. There's more kind of give and take on it, really.
Quite different.
The only thing is that because I put the red cross on, that's absolutely essential. Without the red cross, it could literally go anywhere, and they could put, you know, they could draw their own helicopter and put, you know, guns on it and bazookas and all kinds of things, and then we're in a whole other, you know, area of stuff that we don't really want to be exploring.
And that's slightly what happened. Sorry, I'm going over time, but that's slightly what happened for me, because I went to helicopter hunting, because that's the thing in New Zealand. It used to be a thing that the hunters would shoot deer and then winch down a hook and hook the deer up and lift it up. So that's what I originally drew, was a dead deer. And then I went, oh no, there's a Red Cross. So it must be an injured hunter as well. So then I had that's why I said I changed my mind, because I was bouncing off your given and realizing that my first response wasn't right. It needed to be a person. And then I'm kind of going in my head, oh, okay, so they've sent out a second helicopter. Like I really had to kind of make it fit with the Red Cross thing.
It's fascinating. Sorry.
No, John, please go ahead. Yeah.
It's fascinating, isn't it? I'm just listening to you about John's story, and all that going on. So if there's 25 children, there's all sorts of strands beyond the ones that we've explored, because those came out of your questioning, Tim, which then launched John's story, so there's that for me. And there's also then the am I going to work in the enactive at some point in this, which I've written down, turning it into drama, which I could see moments when I could.
Definitely.
And you won't know, but of course the helicopter was a vehicle for me to go to something in my life, which is about breaking rules to do things. So I have, thank you for enabling me this evening to explore something that I'm very familiar with and have grappled with in my life.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I honestly think we could probably come.
Sorry, forgive me.
About this for another hour, because it's no, not at all. I'm just mindful of the time, really. Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen briefly for the last bit. Get this right. Can you see the slideshow now?
Yeah.
Just hang on. It's like it's done this pause thing. Did that last time. Okay, you can see that now. Yeah. So that's so on the website. There are Viv, we didn't have time to talk about the examples that there are on the website, but Viv mentioned in the previous workshop that there are examples that people have uploaded to the website. So please go and have a look at those if you get time. And the next key 8, create a drawing, is on June the 2nd. So it's another drawing, but done differently. And that will be a fairy tale. Definitely will be. So thank you all.
Thank you, Tim. That was absolutely
fascinating. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you, Ulysses. And I know we didn't hear your story, but I know it's there.
I'm still dying to see your drawings.
They're in the chat. We've uploaded them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. It just I didn't even. I mean, we started, and then I looked at the time, and it was like 5 minutes ago. I was like, where did that go?
No, it's brilliant. Thank you, Tim. So many ways to use these keys. Yeah. All right. I shall stop recording at this point.